What makes absolutely no sense to you at all? Seems like half of the true crime shows I watch involve life insurance. What I don't understand is how the perpetrators convince themselves that being the beneficiary on a brand new life insurance policy and then having the insured turn up dead within days or weeks is not going to put you under a detective's microscope. Even more suspicious are the ones who immediately make the claim for payout within a day of the death. At least sit on it for a month or two and act like you're grieving. I watched a true crime show once and the cop there said that most criminal cases involve very dumb people. It's not some grand battle of wits. It's averagely smart cops versus almost mentally challenged criminals. Smart ones don't get caught. I watched a documentary on a French bank robber who broke into bank vaults after hours and got away with it for years. In an interview with a detective that was after him for like a decade, when he was asked how the bank robber eluded capture for so long, he more or less said, "Most criminals are stupid, which makes them easy to catch. Smart people usually figure out that getting a job is much easier and less risky than a life of crime, so they go and do that. When really smart people actually put their mind to committing crimes, it can be very hard to catch them. Thankfully, it's good for my job, most of them are stupid." My first language was Spanish, which I learned at home. I learned English at school and with my friends outside of school. In addition, German is spoken. Surprisingly, when I speak in my brain, it's always in English. When I pronounce them out loud, though, they come out in the correct language. I knew someone who was a foreign exchange student to Germany, and when he returned to America, his thoughts were in German. My native language is German, but I surround myself with a lot of English, watching shows in English, YouTube videos, and so on. And sometimes, I struggle to find a specific word in German, but the English word instantly comes to my mind. Brains are crazy. If you don't have money, you are charged fees. Being broke is expensive. Maintenance on a $2,000 car versus maintenance on a $30,000 car. How babies just go from swimming and breathing in a pouch of goo to being born and able to breathe normal air. It makes no sense to me. How does something go from not breathing air to breathing air in like a second? The babies don't get it either. That's why they cry in confusion. Something interesting I learned from my baby's doctor when my baby was ill. Babies will cry in order to get more oxygen if they are struggling to breathe. So when they first come out, this now totally makes sense to me, why they are crying, and why it's an issue if they are not, and why it's a sign that a baby isn't breathing if they don't cry when first born. It seems so obvious, but not at the same time. Those Facebook photos promise you a lot of money if you post them. Is it true that people believe it? How and what environment, under what conditions could that possibly work? Is this some sort of inside joke that I'm not aware of? Write amen. You can break a bone and it will heal on its own, but if you develop a little cavity, you must get it filled. Teeth aren't made out of the same cells as bones, therefore can't heal like bones do. Still dumb in terms of evolution. If a pizza costs $9 and I order 2 of them, where the hell does my pizza joint get $39.86 from? From experience, you have to order in a very specific way. I work as a manager at Pizza Hut, and 2 people ordering the exact same thing can have a difference of plus or minus $25 depending on how they order due to specialties that are actually always available. It's insane. Sounds like a needlessly complicated system to take more money from unsuspecting people. What is the root of consciousness and why is there something instead of nothing? Gonna offer answers from 2 books I've read and probably misinterpreted. 1, we're not as conscious as we think we are. We mostly don't know what's going on in our brains. The root of consciousness is just specific parts of the brain which let us be aware of ourselves and mediate between our various, often conflicting impulses and beliefs, which themselves come from within the brain. Incognito, David Eagleman. 2. Any attempt to solve this question can only take place in a universe where there is something. The anthropic principle. That's why there is something. There may well have been many nothings that lasted eternities, but we'll never hear of those. A Brief History of Time, Stephen Hawking. How Bluetooth works. Radio waves, like all wireless communication. I find the fact astonishing that just by waves you can transfer data. Space. Look at the moon. Some days you can see Saturn or Jupiter out there. Look at the stars. You think about us people on this rock in space all running around. We're floating in space on a rock, spinning around, all together, one. And space is just so big. It's overwhelming. Really, really big. I can't even comprehend how big. It doesn't even make sense how big it is. The Earth rotates on an axis. The Earth orbits the Sun. The solar system is orbiting the center of the galaxy. The galaxy is moving away from some starting point in the universe. The universe is expanding. Comprehending all that motion simultaneously blows my mind. Planes. It still amazes me how something that massive can fly. Same thing for me with ships. Like, how does several hundred tons of steel float on the water? You think it's a heavy ship, but it still weighs a lot less than the water it's pushing down on. Punishing the kid who fought the bully. Punishing the whole group for one person's actions. There goes that kid's social life. It's also a war crime. How people came up with baking. I get to eat meats and veggies and fruits. That's just food that is pretty much ready to go. But somehow someone figured that you can grind this plant into a powder, add a certain amount of water and some chicken eggs and some oil and some other crushed plant stuff and then heat it for X minutes, and now you have cake or bread or cookies or whatever. In famine, people start eating anything they can find and discover new foods and also accidents. Get your flour wet, but it's near some natural yeast. You are too poor not to still use it, so you cook that bubbling mass, and it's better than the hard tack that you were making. It's a little sour, but delicious. And now you've invented sourdough. Necessity is the mother of invention. How did Yzma and Kronk get back first? By all accounts, it doesn't make sense. Grown-ass adults not taking responsibility for their actions or property and expecting others to clean up after them. I clean dorm bathrooms, and it seems messy, inconsiderate people have been that way all their lives. Some kids vomit and clearly do their best wasted attempt to clean it up. Other kids just go for the gold and crap in the shower. When I wear sunglasses anywhere while it's cold outside, some cashier or receptionist will say something like, "Oh, look at you," longing for warmer weather, or remind me that there's snow on the ground, or ask me why I'm wearing sunglasses when it's so cold outside. Guys, it's a beautiful day. They aren't referred to as hot weather spectacles. Is snow not common in your area or something? Everyone is wearing sunglasses in my area during the winter because even on cloudy days, the light is reflecting up off of the snow. Seriously, when there's snow on the ground and a fullish moon, it's way brighter at night because of the snow. Why does everyone call those kids in those "I told my kid I ate their Halloween candy" videos bratty if they get mad? The kid has every right to be upset. All you're teaching your child is that they're not supposed to be upset if someone takes something they value, and that they've put time and effort into procuring. I've always hated those videos. I hate that we expect kids to tolerate certain behaviors that we as adults would fight someone on sight for. I was thinking about sharing the other day. Like, why do we care about making kids share? Adults hardly share anything. You come over and want to play with my stuff? How people can just go up to complete strangers and start a conversation. It comes as naturally to them as breathing. In my experience, you're either the person who's born with it or you have to learn it like any other skill. I'm absolutely the latter. The trick is practice, like all things. Start with low-stakes situations like a barista at a coffee place, nowhere near your home. Absolute worst case is you say something a bit stupid and the barista forgets about you as you walk out the door having learned a lesson. It quickly becomes not scary, and from there it becomes natural. Totally agree here. I mainly started filling awkward silences during checkout at stores with terrible jokes or inane observations. I'm still awkward as heck, but I make friends wherever I go. According to my partner, really just gotta practice and be okay with failing a whole bunch. That I can't get a job without experience. Like, how am I going to get the experience if not at a job? Corporate jobs are a game that you play. The rules don't make sense. You were a cashier at a store? No. Instead, you say you worked in customer support in a customer-facing role where you consistently met your weekly goals and targets by creating user-centric experiences by cultivating all resources available to you at the time. LOL, or something like that. Why do I have to file my taxes? You already know what I either owe or am getting back. Just either bill me or pay me. This is it right here. I've even gotten IRS letters telling me I calculated wrong. Okay, well then, why ask me to even do it? Me too, though most years when this happens they give me my money back. So that's not too bad. How your body knows when to stop growing your eyebrows, arm hair, leg hair, pubes, etc., but your facial hair and the hair on your head grow endlessly. I don't know how old you are, but this will eventually change. I've seen men with eyebrows growing past their face. Why people are so offended by swear words that they gasp and change channels when they hear someone say damn. My mom does this. She explained it to me multiple times and I still don't get it. Alternatively, how some words were decided to be swear words, despite having otherwise normal meanings. I mean, I can say poop and that's okay, but crap is just too far? How the internet works. The internet is really just your computer asking for documents from other computers. When you go to reddit.com, your computer goes to the internet equivalent of a phone book called DNS and looks up reddit.com and gets back an IP address like 12.34.56.78. Your computer then uses that IP address to talk to the Reddit server and ask for the content for the web page. It gets back a text file from the Reddit servers that tell you your internet browser has to draw the site correctly on your computer. It gets back a text file from the Reddit servers that tells your internet browser how to draw the site correctly on your computer. Gee whiz, that must take ages. House price rises. How seriously can people have so much money for crappy houses? Where are all these great paying jobs that service the mortgage? My partner and I have decent middle class jobs, teacher and nurse, yet cannot afford to buy in the city where we live, and not even close to the city where we live. How can a pandemic wreck an economy, throw thousands out of work needing to rely on government handouts, yet house prices increase? It's insane. I bought my house for $119,000 in 2009. It's a cute little 1,700 square foot house in a decent neighborhood in a decent part of San Antonio. If I were to spend $20 or $30K to renovate it, I could easily get $290K for it right now. There is no way I could afford my own house if I bought it today. There are one-bedroom apartments in my city that are higher than my mortgage payment. All of this is inflation, but wages are stagnant. I don't claim to know a lot about economics, but I can't see this leading to good things if the trend continues. Same. I live in Fort Worth and bought my house in 2014 for $165K. I could sell it for double that now. I'd like to upgrade, but what I'd make selling it would all go into buying a new house and probably plus some. Balancing equations in chemistry. I tried for weeks to understand the concept, but I still can't understand moles and Avogadro's numbers to save my life. Avocado's number is the number of avocados a mole can eat in an hour. Goat eyes. As a high school teacher, I just forced my students to write a point evidence justification paragraph proving that goats are aliens. Lots of prey animals have horizontally shaped pupils. This is so that they can absorb light coming from more directions, which makes them more able to see any incoming threats. Prey animals will also usually have their eyes on the sides of their head so they can see around themselves more. Lots of predators will have vertically shaped pupils. This makes them able to absorb light from one angle very well. They will also have more closely set eyes so they can focus on one spot very well. Interesting stuff. Most land-based predators have forward-facing eyes. Depth perception is crucial for hunting. That says a lot for humans. Shifts eyes nervously. Bitcoin. I don't think 90% of people who invest in Bitcoin understands it. 90% of people don't understand fiat currency either. People thinking the earth is flat, even after proving themselves wrong. Behind the curve is the best example I've ever seen of confirmation bias. The people involved are clever enough to keep coming up with experiments that are genuinely useful for determining whether the earth is round or flat, but then immediately start looking for excuses when they're proven wrong. The laser isn't hitting where it should. We must have messed up. The gyroscope is picking up a 15-degree-per-hour drift. We need to disprove that. Photographs. I push a button and a moment in time is saved forever. I should point out that photography has been developing for 150 years. It literally started as some French dudes being like, hey, if I take this thingy and reflect this light off of it this way, and then it will hold onto that light, and you can look at it. It's developed a lot since then. It's developed a lot. I see what you did there. People that don't flush public restroom toilets. What's the deal with that? Do they not flush in their own homes? Is it laziness? Contempt with society? Seeing retail and other workers suffer? Just not knowing better? Laziness is my guess. Why bother with the extra work? You'll probably never use that bathroom again, and if you do, it's basically guaranteed that someone else will have used it after you or cleaned it, and the chance of someone calling you out for it in a public place is small. Even if they do call you out, what will they do? Call you a bad person? Like they care. At home it's different though, there's no staff to clean the bathroom after you, and unless you live with someone, no one but you is going to use it. And if you do live with someone else and still do this, you can't just go somewhere to avoid them all day, you'll have to go back. Need to clarify, not my views. Clean your frickin' mess and flush the damn toilet. That black holes can bend light. Like, what is that blasphemy? Black holes bend not just light, but time. Giant celestial bodies where all of our known laws of the universe go to die. I am writing this near a black hole 3,206 years from now. Your now. The black hole has messed with the Wi-Fi signals too. That's added to it. Redstone comparators. Truth, I use them only by following a tutorial exactly, and even then I break it half the time. Spending most daylight hours at work 5 out of 7 days. Small businesses do not open up on Sundays, which is one of the only 2 days per week most people are off. Most of the fashion industry not supplying clothing items to plus-size people, and obviously missing out on a ton of money. It's dark when I go to work, and this time of year it's dark when I come home, thanks to the cloud cover during the winter here. I've gone weeks without seeing the sun before. It freaking sucks, and can easily trigger seasonal depression. NFTs. Unfortunately, if NFTs make no sense to you, that means you understand them perfectly. Nah, they just don't have the need to launder money. Dancing. The idea of moving my body around in time with music is completely alien and unfathomable to me. How about tapping your foot to the beat? Nope, never had the urge. I fully recognize I'm in the minority. People are proud of traits or actions that are negative, or at least not positive. For example, people proudly say they don't read or don't exercise. Sometimes plain old honesty can come across as pride or even arrogance. I don't know anyone who is truly proud of not reading or exercising, but I do know people who, if you ask if they read, they'll give you a plain honest no without the slightest attempt to soften it. It's not that they're proud. You asked, they answered, and that's the answer. If they're proud of something, they're proud of their ability to completely own their faults and display them openly for all to see. It's an honest way to live, and they have every right to be proud of that. If you know anyone who is legit proud of not reading or exercising, as in their choice not to was a principled one, and or they look down on people who do those things, I'd be interested in hearing their backstory. Credit scores. Especially how completely paying off a loan can significantly lower your credit score. Yeah, exactly. I've been hurt by a 100-point decrease from paying off $30,000 early, and it's been a year and I'm still not recovered. I'm not happy about it. People intentionally harm others just for the sake of causing pain. Just why? Do you even know what you're doing? How awful does that feel? Maybe someone should do the same things to you. Maybe you'll understand then. Not like that's the best way to do it, but the one most likely to succeed, I guess. They do it because it gives them a thrill and feeling of power. You return the favor and they'll get you back 30 times over, and never forget. Shaving eyebrows off and painting back on. They do that to draw their eyebrows in a completely different shape than the one that they were born with. Like nowadays, it's popular to draw them higher to give the same effect as a facelift. It makes sense to me. It's not like they're shaving them to draw them back on the exact same shape. That would indeed be useless. I told my girlfriend she had drawn her eyebrows too high. She looked very surprised. Dishwashers. Shouldn't be that easy to get dishes clean. Modern dishwashers save more water than you do by cleaning plates and a sink too. That really seems weird to me. I always assumed they'd waste more. I had roommates in college who believed that the dishwasher didn't get dishes as clean as if you hand washed them. Like, bruh, the dishwasher can produce much hotter water than your human hands can handle for a much longer time at a much higher pressure. The more I think about love, it doesn't make much sense. It is weird how this random person you basically randomly met at one time in your life suddenly becomes the most important person in your life, so much so that you would kill for that person. The same person can suddenly become the person you want to kill if that person breaks your heart. If you would have never met that person, you wouldn't have any negative or positive feelings about that person, but would have those feelings for another person. In the end, love is one of those things that don't need to make sense. It is something to just enjoy when it happens. I was thinking about this today, how you can have such strong romantic feelings for someone, but not just anyone. It must be a result of our evolution to continue the species or something. How normal income people can afford to go on vacations. Is everyone just living in massive amounts of debt or what? I can barely afford to go camping for Christ's sake, and I don't owe the bank anything. Who in their right mind would take out a line of credit to go somewhere? I have the same question about middle-class Americans' lives in general. How can they even afford anything when prices are so ridiculous? I get dizzy when I look at American college tuitions and everyone says they are way too high, but then people go to college anyway and continue to live a normal middle-class lifestyle. How? Does everyone just start saving for their child's education as soon as it's born? Traditionally, the middle class has been fueled by home ownership. My parents got lucky and bought a house in an area that saw massive growth, so they sold it for nearly triple what they paid for it. That, and when you own a home, your mortgage stays constant. My rent has gone up over 30% in the last 2 years, but if I owned a home, it would have stayed the same. The other thing I see these days is inheritance. The last point, college debt, ultimately becomes the child's responsibility, not the parents'. You see the younger generation being held back from buying houses partially because of the massive loan they start out with. We need to teach our children to treat college costs like any other purchase. How the masses keep voting for people who have zero interest in advancing their cause. The masses are largely uninformed and vote for reasons often unrelated to policy. Everything being wrapped in plastic. Why people smoke cigarettes. These crappy things should have died a long time ago. Almost like they're addictive or something. There is no logical reason to even start smoking. They are addictive, sure, but there are also many ways to combat the addiction in order to stop. The price of beef jerky. Everybody talks about gas prices, but not the fact that I just paid almost $9 for a bag of Jack Links. I mean, it takes like 4 times the weight in raw meat to make a given amount of jerky. Even without markup, for processing a 3-ounce bag of jerky costing $9 isn't crazy when you consider it's equivalent to almost a pound of raw beef. Working 50 hours a week, including travel time, only to spend my Saturday doing catch-up tasks, and Sunday being burned out and then having to prep for the coming week in the evenings. Also, why my boss is so massively stuck in the past for working practices. They forbid working from home purely because he's cheap and rented new premises this year, prior to COVID, so obviously had to get his money's worth. Casting Mark Wahlberg as Sully in the new Uncharted movie. How flies can get indoors easily but struggle to get out. What language deaf people speak in their head. I actually did research on this in my ASL course. If the person wasn't born deaf and learned a spoken language before becoming deaf, they mostly think in said language. But if they were born deaf, they think in sign language. They feel the movements of their hands. They see the words in their head. See lip movements in their head, if they learned to lip read. Or just see scenarios. It was super interesting to learn about. That you can't have a conversation with yourself. You can't? Nope, you can't. You need 2 or more people. How can people clearly envision images in their mind? Mine is very blurry and faint. For exams, I could remember the exact image of a textbook page my answer was on. I could even picture in my head the placement of the paragraph. Why countries have different names in each language? Like you call yourself Hispana? Nope, you're Spain. Polska? Nope, you're Poland. How did Nippon become Japan? How hard is it to say Italia instead of Italy? I understand that some places have their own names for lands before interacting with people from there, but do they just disregard what the natives of the land call the place? Cancel culture. Put your money where your mouth is what it used to be called. You just didn't do business with them anymore. Now with the internet, you have an audience to tell everyone you aren't going to. Thanks for watching until the end. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and then stop by the channel to check out another amazing video.